For the rest of Lesson 11.4, Day 3, we will continue practicing sketching Venn diagrams and finding probabilities. Please feel free to stop the video at any point to give a problem a try on your own, and then resume it when you're ready to check your answer. Number 5 says that there were 500 freshmen and sophomores surveyed. 215 were sophomores, 290 ride the bus to school. 55 of the bus riders are sophomores. So let's start by putting our universal set at the edge of our rectangle. So we know that we have 500 total freshmen and sophomores that were surveyed. Then we say that 215 were sophomores. So let's call one of our circles S to represent our sophomores. And we know that circle will add up to 215. Then 290 ride the bus to school. So let's put a B in our other circle to represent those bus riders. And we know that that will add up to 290. So remember, we're putting these numbers at the edge of our circle, not inside them, because we don't know yet how many are going to be in the overlap or how many are not in the overlap. Our next sentence says 55 of the bus riders are sophomores. So that would be representing our overlap. So the 55 will go right where those two circles cross over. Now we can use processes like we did yesterday to fill out the rest of the Venn diagram. So let's start by taking 215 minus 55 so we can figure out what is this other part of our circle. 215 minus 55 equals 160. So that means we have 160 sophomores who did not ride the bus. Next, let's take 290 minus 55 so we can figure out what goes on this part of our circle. 290 minus 55 equals 235. So that means we have 235 bus riders who were not sophomores. So that means that those 235 would be our freshmen who rode the bus. Okay, then next let's figure out what number is going to go outside of these circles. So that means we're trying to figure out how many freshmen do we have that did not ride the bus. So we would take our total of 500 and subtract our 3 numbers in green inside of our Venn diagram circles. So 500 minus 160 minus 55 minus 235, and that gives us 50 freshmen who do not ride the bus. Okay, now that we've completed our Venn diagram, let's take a look at our probability question. What is the probability that a student is a freshman or rides the bus? So for this one, we need to start by figuring out how many freshmen do we have. They told us how many sophomores we have up here, and we know that our total is 500. So if we just take 500 minus 215, so we're subtracting our sophomores, that would leave us with 285 freshmen. Okay, so if we're trying to find the probability that a student is a freshman or rides the bus, we would start with the probability that a student is a freshman. So that is 285 out of our total 500 students surveyed. Then we would add the probability that a student rides the bus. We had 290 bus riders out of 500 students that were surveyed. And then we need to subtract our overlap. But remember, this time we're saying freshman and rides the bus. So we're not talking about the overlap between our sophomores and our bus riders. We want to know this number here. Because remember, if it's not overlapping with sophomores, then that means that would be our freshmen who ride the bus. So we are going to subtract 235 out of 500. Okay, if we go ahead and simplify that, 285 plus 290 minus 235 equals 340 out of 500, and that reduces to 17/25. So we have a 17 out of 25 probability that a student is a freshman or rides the bus. Let's take a look at number 6. Of 180 resort visitors, 83 rented a kayak and 48 rented a paddle boat. There were 29 visitors that rented both. So this time our universal set is our 180 resort visitors. Then we have those who rented a kayak, which was 83 total, and then those who rented a paddle boat, which was 48 total. There were 29 visitors that rented both of them, so we would go to our overlap of kayak and paddle boat, and that's where we would write our 29. So now we can use those numbers to fill out the rest of our Venn diagram. Let's start by taking 83 minus 29, which equals 54. So we have 54 visitors who rented only a kayak. Then we can take 48 minus 29, which equals 19. So we have 19 visitors who rented only a paddle boat. Then lastly, let's figure out how many visitors do we have that did not rent either of those two things. They did not rent a kayak or a paddle boat. We would take our total 180 visitors and subtract the 3 green numbers in our Venn diagram circles. So minus 54, minus 29, minus 19, which equals 78. So those are our visitors that went to the resort, but they did not rent those two things. Okay, now we can take a look at our probability question. What is the probability that a resort visitor rented a kayak or a paddle boat? So we would take our two probabilities and add them together and then subtract our overlap. So the probability of resort visitor rented a kayak was 83 out of our 180 total resort visitors, plus those who rented a paddle boat would be 48 out of 180, and then minus our overlap, which was 29 out of 180. When we add that together, we get 102 over 180, and that reduces to 17/30. So there's a 17/30 probability that a resort visitor rented a kayak or a paddle boat. Okay, our last question for today, number 7, says of 210 community education students, 45 are in baseball and 60 are in swimming lessons. 13 students are in baseball only. So let's start with our universal set of 210 community education students. So we have 45 in baseball. We have 60 in swimming lessons. 13 students are in baseball only. So that means that should go in our baseball circle, not overlapping with the swimming. So 13 right here. Now let's go ahead and figure out the rest of our Venn diagram. So we can take 45 minus 13, which equals 32. So we have 32 students who were in both baseball and swimming lessons. Then we can take 60 minus 32, which equals 28. So we have 28 students who were in swimming lessons only. And then lastly, let's figure out our students who were not in baseball or swimming lessons by taking our entire total for our universal set, 210, minus our three numbers in the middle. So minus 13, minus 32, minus 28, which equals 137. Okay, next let's look at our probability question. What is the probability that a student is in baseball or swimming lessons? So the probability that a student is in baseball is 45 out of 210, plus the probability a student is in swimming lessons is 60 out of 210, and then subtract our overlap, which was 32 out of 210. So if we take 45 plus 60 minus 32, we get 73 out of 210, and this fraction does not simplify. So there's a 73 out of 210 probability that a student is in baseball or swimming lessons.